Here I found a pretty interesting reflection shot to play with. We have this character and this little rabbit as an illustration on the window, and what I did is I focused on this bowling thing and I placed it right in the middle between the character and the rabbit, and I waited for, just like right now, waited for someone to walk by this bowling. I don't know what's the name for this, but I guess you understand. And yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting reflection shot with plenty of layers and colors too. So here again we have a beautiful scene. We are in the shadow here. All this side of the block is in shadow, so it creates a nice amount of contrast. The light is pouring on this other street, the one that is perpendicular to this one. And the good thing is that the building on the other side is white, which creates a perfect backdrop to place subject on, as you can see now. And I tried to take a picture vertically because I'm shooting on a 50mm lens, and I wanted to include this yellow sign to add a touch of color, and I think it looked quite cool. Here I think we have another interesting vertical composition to play with. What I'm trying to do is incorporate only this part of the frame, and so we only have half of this like this gate to enter this shrine, and so I think it's more interesting to have only part of it. There's nice light hitting this side, which brings up the color pretty well, and here this is where I want my subject to walk, and since the background is more dark, like almost black, what I want is someone walking by that has pretty light clothes, so it could create a nice contrast. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I noticed this beautiful light hitting this store on the other side of the road. So what I did is I placed my camera really close to this metallic pole to block the whole right part of the frame, all that's creating too much mess. And I also composed my shot vertically, so I could also exclude all this left part, so I was left with only this nice and minimal composition. I waited for someone to walk in here, and you'll see that the closer that person would walk from us, the more it would create this silhouette effect, because here is the shadow. But if someone is walking in the light, it also works nice, but I think a stronger silhouette effect works better here. Nothing too crazy here. I just like this arch thing, and with the red here from the storefront, it worked quite well together. And I waited for a taxi to drive on the road, because I think taxi in Japan look cool. Here we have an absolutely beautiful light, and I like that this little yellow flag is also properly hit by the light, so I try to incorporate the flag and someone walking into this beam of light as a silhouette. It's difficult to have only one subject at this time of the day, but still, even with more than one, I think it looked quite cool. like the reflection of the trees and the building on the river. And now there aren't any birds flying, but I was waiting for some birds to fly there, and I was lucky that one bird happened to fly just where I'm pointing my finger at right now. And yeah, I think it looked quite good, decent amount of contrast. The bird being also in a pretty bright area, there's a clear subject separation, and yeah, I like that shot. I don't know what exactly that thing is. I guess it's a sticker of, it looks like to be some sort of a theater or something, but you see plenty of texture on this very old pole, and this worn out sticker. I think it looked cool. I composed that vertically to really have only the pole in the frame, nothing on the left and right, for a pretty interesting textured shot, I guess. Here we have another pretty dynamic scene. I like how the light is coming, but still we have all this left part that is left in the shadow. And what I did is I placed my camera next to this like bus stop, and to block a little bit the right part of the frame. Like on the right part there's just the road, so it's a bit messy. So doing so, I could block the right part of the frame and have like this little sleeve of light in the middle. And I waited for someone to come here. It ended up being someone on a bicycle. I think it worked quite well, but I might go somewhere else now. But if I had more time to persevere, I would wait for someone like walking. I think it would work better. So here what I like is this superposition of like straight lines, some squarish kind of shapes, and I waited for a subject to walk where I'm pointing my finger at right now. I think it was good, but my only complaint is that there is this little square, darker square. If only this whole section was uniform and the same color, it could have worked better, I think. But anyway, with the 50mm, I think it worked well because you could layer and stack everything together. And also, we have only a touch of yellow, but otherwise it's pretty gray. It almost makes like a monochrome shot, and I found that pretty interesting. So, not entirely convinced by this one. I placed my camera here to have more leading lines. Here at the end of this walking path, it's pretty bright, so I thought it could work well with the subject, but it gets a bit lost because on top of that it's very dark. So yeah, not the best one, but still I found it pretty interesting with the leading lines. A nice contrast because of the light coming from the back. And yeah, anyway, I show you the process and I show you the pictures, even not the best one. I only moved a few steps, and I think here the composition works better. It's still the same idea, using this for the leading lines. We have the light coming from the back, but somehow I find it quite easier to read. And I also like the sky. It's bright today, but we have some interesting little clouds, so that adds to the composition. And while I was waiting for someone to walk, I locked focus, locked exposure, and waiting. No one was coming, and I saw someone, you see behind this fence, someone walking here on the sidewalk. And he was dressed in a white clothes, so it contrasted quite well. And because I locked my focus and it is approximately the same distance between the two, I could easily grab a shot and frame that person within one of these little quadrants. Because in such scenario, it's always super difficult to have a good performance with the autofocus. So definitely, I think it's crucial to have a button on your camera to be able to lock focus when you're doing street photography. So I'm still on this little passage, and what I found interesting here is first of all the light. We have another pretty contrasty scene, and I made a vertical composition like this, and you see this traffic light was almost like pointing towards the area where I wanted my subject to be. So it really helps in terms of reading the composition, reading the shot. It tells the viewer, hey, look at here. And yeah, I think it worked quite well. A pretty minimalistic scene with good light. So as you can see, way further back, there's a building that is pretty bright yellow, and I'm lucky that there is a blue truck in front of it. And you know, blue and orange are complementary colors, but blue and yellow also works well. So with the 50mm here, I could focus on only this section. So once again, I was happy to have a longer focal length for this one. All the surroundings here in the shadow, I used exposure compensation to make them look very dark, and just to have this bright yellow and blue truck in the middle. Yeah, that was the idea behind this shot. So here I noticed this little light pocket on the other side of the road. So what I did so far is locking my autofocus and my exposure. So in order to really have this light pocket really stand out, and having the rest pretty dark. And now I'm just waiting for someone to walk in, just like right now. I'm not a huge fan of all these poles, especially there's one that cuts a little bit into the composition, but I will probably clone that out with Photoshop or Lightroom. And yeah, I can use some foreground here to block a little bit the right part of the frame, and I can have something pretty interesting. So still working that scene, and I got a bit closer and actually used this pole to my advantage. I went a bit lower to the ground, using the pole as a foreground to block a little bit the right side of the frame, a bit like this. And again, exposing for the highlights, because we have this bright white area. And yeah, just waiting for someone to walk there. And that was it.